I do want to point out, when you get in your car, when you go forward, what do? You put it in D. When you want to go back, what do? You put it in R.
And with that, the driving metaphor is TIRED.
Top line begins right now.
Hello and welcome to ABC News Washington Post Top Line. I'm Rick Klein.
And I'm Jonathan Carl. Still wondering what happens when you put your car in N.
N is we'll be talking to Independent later in the show. Every day at noon Eastern Time, we're right here bringing you the latest political news and analysis, driving you right into the day, always moving forward, never moving back. Mr. Carl, start us off, sir.
40-something. We have not one, but two new Gallup polls today that show bad news for the president's approval rating. The daily tracking poll is at 45%. But the interesting one here is the USA Today Gallup poll, which shows him at 41%. That is a really bad number. And in case you're wondering what that is an interesting thing that shows the president's approval rating, daily tracking, compared to Ronald Reagan's at this point during Reagan's presidency. And as you can see, the president is right on track towards a smashing electoral landslide in 2012.
They'll take it. They'll take it, and they'll lose some seats in 1982/2010. It is uncanny. This is a fun tool. You should go and check it out at Gallup's website. It is uncanny, the similarities between Obama and Reagan this far in terms of popularity. But these numbers in the low 40s, 41% is really striking for this president. Next up, Show Me Showdown. Voters in 3 states are going to the polls today in primaries. That's Kansas, Missouri, and Michigan. And we love when voters vote on Top Line. And maybe the most interesting thing is a ballot initiative in Missouri today, where that'll be the first state to have judgment on Obamacare, on the Obama health care law. They're taking a vote today to disapprove of it and to say that they won't be participating in the universal mandate, the requirement to acquire health coverage. This has more symbolic meaning than anything else because this is all getting fought out in the courts. But you know these results will get trumpeted, particularly if it passes as we expect that it will.
Yeah, we expect low turnout in like the low 20s. Right. But this is basically saying that Missouri doesn't have to abide by the law. I'm not sure that's really going to stand constitutional muster if it does pass. But speaking of the Constitution, next up, yes, Virginia, there is a lawsuit. The district court judge has now ruled that Virginia's lawsuit challenging the constitutionality of the health care bill can go forward. What's interesting on this is central to the defense here. The argument is that the Constitution does not allow the federal government to basically force somebody to buy health insurance. And the administration's response is saying that they're not forcing anybody to do anything. The mandate, it's simply a tax. If you don't get your health insurance, you simply have to pay a tax. It falls into the government's power to tax. But do you remember what the president himself had to say to George Stephanopoulos about whether or not this was a tax?
It involved the dictionary, but please tell us.
Let's take a look.
Your critics say it is a tax increase.
My critics say everything's a tax increase. My critics say that I'm taking over every sector of the economy. You know that. Look, we can have a legitimate debate about whether or not we're going to have an individual mandate or not. But
you reject that it's a tax increase.
I absolutely reject that notion.
At least until it went to the courts. Now the government says the Obama administration is a tax.
And that's a fun one for the Justice Department to explain, at least politically. And finally today, Meg's Millions, the $99 million candidacy and counting. Remember that it's only August, and Meg Whitman in their campaign for governor has already spent $99 million. That is an incredible pace of $531,000 a day. And it's really incredible when you compare that to her Democratic opponent, Jerry Brown, who has spent a total of $450,000, only $377,000 here in 2010. Now, it should be noted, he didn't have a competitive primary, and he is stowing away his resources for the fall. But that's what we call a spending gap.
Yeah, that's pretty serious. I mean, think about that.
Wow.
More per day than he has spent all year.
There you go. And happening again, probably more during this program. We begin today up on Capitol Hill with Senator Bernie Sanders, an independent senator from Vermont. And I know Congress is very busy this week, wrapping up work on a lot of different things. One thing I wanted to ask you about, Senator Sanders, is the energy bill that Harry Reid still wants to move forward. This is not going to include a cap-and-trade system. That is off the table. How disappointing is that to you, that this is not going to happen in this Congress, maybe in the remainder of this president's term?
Well, I think it's disappointing to me. It should be disappointing not only to every American, but every person on this planet. Global warming is real, and it is causing right now very significant problems for our environment, and that's true all over the world. The good news is that we have the capability to reverse greenhouse gas emissions and create millions of good-paying jobs. transforming our energy system is good for the economy as we move away from spending $350 billion every single year importing oil from Saudi Arabia, Venezuela, and other foreign countries. What we have got to do is invest that money here, create energy here, create jobs here. So am I disappointed that we're not moving in that direction? Absolutely.
I mean, because if you can't do something about this issue when you've got 59 Democrats, 59 members of the Democratic caucus, when can you do this? I mean, why not bring this up and fight it?
But one second. I mean, you're saying, but let's change that question a little bit and saying, how do you go forward when the Republicans have waged more filibusters in the last 2 years than in the history of the United States Senate? And the real question you should be asking is, given the energy crisis, given the opportunities to stimulate our economy by moving toward new energy technologies, why do we not have one Republican willing to stand up to the coal companies, the oil companies, and the big money interest in joining us on energy transformation?
So why not bring it up and fight it out? And
well, that's good. I mean, I agree with that. I mean, I think we should take the case to the American people. Do we create millions of jobs here, or do we continue to give billions to the Saudi Arabian families?
I want to ask you on another topic, Senator Sanders. The president has a fiscal commission that's been appointed, and they're working right now to identify maybe tax increases, but also budget cuts. And they are not taking entitlements off the table, not by any stretch. They're saying that Social Security, Medicare have to be on the table. What is your reaction to that? I know you've been involved with some groups that are trying to push back at that.
Here's what I think. When you talk about economics in America, here's the point you have to understand. For many years, exacerbated during the Bush administration, we have seen the collapse of the middle class. The median family income for the average American family went down by $2,200 under Bush. Millions of people lost their health care. Millions of people left the middle class and became poor. Meanwhile, while the middle class is shrinking and poverty is increasing, the people on top have done phenomenally well. And you now have a situation, gentlemen, we don't talk about it very much, I know that, but the top 1% earn more income than do the bottom 50%. Top 1% owns more wealth than the bottom 90%. So, bottom line is, if we're going to deal with the deficit, which I believe we have to, I don't want to see the middle class punished. I don't want to see lower income people punished. I want to see a tax system which, among other things, takes a look at the huge tax breaks that the wealthy and large corporations have gotten. I do not want to see Social Security retirement age raised to the age of 70. So I think we have got to ask those people who have benefited in recent years to start paying their fair share of taxes. You got to take a hard look at the military. We're spending $700 billion a year on the military.
So should the idea of cutting Social Security be off the table of this deficit commission?
No. Well, yes, the answer is yes. But the way you deal with Social Security is if you do away with the cap. Right now, somebody who makes $1 billion a year pays into the Social Security trust fund, as you know.
But no cuts to benefits.
That's right. Bring more money into the system. Do not tell working class people who have been made promises, who have struggled their whole years for a decent retirement, don't tell those people they're going to have to work to 70. Many of them in blue-collar positions can't do that.
Senator Sanders, there's another hot-button issue that's bubbling up in the last couple days. We heard yesterday the Senate Minority Leader, Mitch McConnell, say he wants to have a hearing in Congress on the 14th Amendment and the way that it grants citizenship to the children of immigrants, even illegal immigrants. Do you think that's good policy going forward? A lot of folks have been criticizing the fact that people can come here and have a baby and they're citizens.
Well, let me tell you something. I think it's good to take a look at all of our constitutional amendments. But I'll tell you something, if you think it's a coincidence that this sudden discussion begins 3 months before an election, you'd be very, very mistaken. This is a political issue. I'm afraid my friend Mr. McConnell is not interested in taking a hard look at Wall Street and the role that Wall Street has caused in causing the worst recession since the 1930s. He is certainly not taking a good look at doing away with tax breaks for the rich. They would prefer to come down on the middle class and working families. This is a political issue. We're going to hear more about guns. You're going to hear about gays. You're going to hear about immigration. This is what the Republicans are running on. They are not running on ways to protect the middle class.
But on this question, though, Senator, do you believe that we should revisit the idea of automatic citizenship for anybody born in this country, regardless of the legal status of their parents?
I think it is an issue that deserves discussion. I think the way it's being presented now is 100% political. I think there are other constitutional issues you want to take a look at as well.
All right, Senator Bernie Sanders, independent of Vermont. Good luck wrapping up business this week, and enjoy your August.
Thank you very much.